This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Prime Minister's Mann Ki Baat. The participants are Ashok Tandon, political analyst, and Vinay Kumar, journalist.
In his monthly Mann Ki Baat address, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his government, which is NDA government, has also completed 7 years in office. This is Prime Minister Modi's second term in office, and he said that credit of the nation's achievement in these past 7 years goes to the citizens. In his 77th edition of Mann Ki Baat on this last Sunday of the month of May, Prime Minister also lauded the work done by frontline corona warriors. He said that people's victory resolve and spirit of service has always made the country proud, and he expressed the confidence that the country will rise victoriously from the amidst of every storm. Mr. Tandon, if we look at the highlights of today's address, because of the corona pandemic, the government has not launched any celebrations to mark 7 years in office. But Prime Minister did touch upon some of the achievements, particularly in health sector, in country's capacity building while tackling natural disasters. So what would you say were the highlights of Mann Ki Baat in today's address?
Today's 77th edition of Prime Minister's monthly Mann Ki Baat radio program was glowing tributes which he paid to all sorts of frontline warriors, not only those engaged in the health sector, but also in the transport sector, railway, road, airports. And the best part of the entire episode today was that he personally reached out to those people, some of those frontline warriors, and that included truck driver who has been driving the oxygen tankers over the years, and he has not been able to be with his family for about 9 months except for talking to his children on phone. The Prime Minister talked to him and on a one-on-one basis, inquiring about his family welfare. And then he tried to understand how people at the ground level, particularly those who are transporting the medical equipment, health equipment, and recently, of course, oxygen. He was surprised. In fact, he was so thankful and grateful to all of them for serving the nation in their own way. And then he reached out to female rail driver, and who has been driving trains in the service of the nation, particularly transporting oxygen by rail. And also, of course, the Air Force officers who have been transporting the medical equipment, healthcare equipment, and of course, oxygen by transport planes. So I was deeply impressed the way he reached out to all of them, interacted with all of them, inquired about their family welfare, and also thanked them on behalf of the nation.
Mr. Tandon, you rightly pointed out, because with the group captain of Air Force, Prime Minister also spoke to his 12-year-old daughter and inquired about her education. And similarly, from the truck driver, Mr. Dinesh, who hailed from Jaunpur, Uttar Pradesh, far eastern part of Uttar Pradesh. You rightly pointed out he has been driving these oxygen-carrying trucks for the past 12 or 13 years. Prime Minister inquired about his families. As you were saying, this gives a personal touch to the address, as well as, we will all agree that over the past 1 year, the government has faced the toughest challenges in office, be it natural disasters or be it tackling the first wave, then second wave, and preparations for the third wave of the pandemic also. And Prime Minister said that, from 900 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen in a day, which India was producing during the normal output, it has multiplied by 10 times to 9,500 metric tons. And we saw the SOS, given by various hospitals, particularly in Delhi and other parts of the country. So this also comes as an assurance, from the Prime Minister.
Certainly, as you also mentioned, that this particular episode of Mann Ki Baat marks completion of 7 years of the Narendra Modi government. And the Prime Minister very rightly said that the country has run on the mantra of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. And he said we all have worked in the service of the country with a dedicated spirit. And Prime Minister said that we are all proud when we see that India does not function according to the thinking or under the pressure of other countries. It was a great reassurance to the nation that under no circumstances that his government will come under any kind of pressure from wherever it may be coming. He said the country runs on its own resolution. when India does not compromise on issues of national security and when the strength of our forces increases, we feel that we are on the right track. And in that context, he did mention certain achievements of his government and said that India giving befitting reply to all conspiracies from other nations. And he said this increases the confidence of the country. But he paid a very handsome tribute to the farmers of India who have played a key role in feeding the nation during these times of COVID-19. The farmers have produced record production even in the middle of the pandemic. At many places, farmers have got more price than the MSP for mustard. It is only because of the record food production that our country is able to provide support to every citizen. And he recalled that free ration is being provided to 80 crore poor people. The farmers of our country are doing wonders in many areas by taking advantage of the new technologies and the new arrangements and the new policy. And see the production of liquid oxygen, as you also very rightly mentioned, and increased by 10 times. Our corona warriors are delivering them to every corner of the country. When the pandemic started, there were few tests every day, but now there are around 20 lakh tests being conducted every day. And as I earlier said, that he talked to many of them. And during the second wave, a major challenge was to supply medical oxygen to remote areas. Counter challenges that the country faced, drivers of cryogenic oxygen tankers helped on working like a war footing. That was the spirit in which the country has been facing. And so he said, my thoughts also go out to people who have suffered from the western and eastern coast areas, particularly during these two cyclones. And he said the country, has been facing pandemic, and then there are cyclones, earthquakes, so many natural calamities have also posed a great challenge to us, and we as a nation have been fighting with a very dedicated spirit and resolution.
That is where Mr. Tandon, he said that people's victory, resolve and spirit of service has always made the country, rise from the midst of every storm. That is what he referred to. But, we have all seen the government has faced very sharp criticism handling of second wave. And Prime Minister himself, mentioned that in a century, this kind of pandemic has occurred. We all know that after Spanish flu, this is the worst pandemic which has hit not only India but all parts of the world. But the government had to take these steps on a global war footing, and envoys and diplomats were activated to get all this help from nearly 40 countries. As because of India had also, in the earlier phase, launched the vaccine Maitri program, supplying vaccines to the countries which had no access to vaccines.
Certainly, Prime Minister, attributed all this success in fighting the pandemic and also the cyclones. He said that we as Indians, howsoever big the challenge be, India's victory resolve, our Vijay Sankalp has always been equal in magnitude. Our collective strength and our spirit of service has always rescued the country from the midst of every storm we have faced in the past. We have seen in the days gone by that our doctors, nurses, frontline warriors, have toiled day and night without bothering about themselves and continue to do so. Amidst all this, there are indeed people who have played a major role in the fight against the second wave of corona, and many listeners of Mann Ki Baat on Namo app and through letters have urged him to touch upon those warriors. That was exactly the idea that the Prime Minister today reached out to some of them and spoke to them about the welfare of their family also. And he said that when the second wave came, the way the demand for oxygen surged all of a sudden, and this was a very big challenge. Delivering medical oxygen to remote parts of the country was indeed a huge task. So therefore, all these things we could face, and in confronting this challenge, the country was helped by cryogenic tanker drivers, the Oxygen Express, the Air Force pilot, and many such people worked on a war footing, saving the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. And joining us, in the Mann Ki Baat today, he said, I would be personally talking to them. And that is exactly what he did. And I think he did touch the hearts of the nation today.
As you rightly said, Mr. Tandon, that He spoke to Sirisha, the loco pilot, who said that her sister works in a bank and she is the locomotive driver of this oxygen express which travels 125 kilometers in about 1.5 hours, and the kind of support which Indian Railways network had provided her. And Prime Minister also, inquired about her family. And similarly, he spoke to the lab technician in Delhi who has graduated to testing for the corona. And the Prime Minister noted that, from being just couple of labs last year when the corona pandemic broke out. Today, the country has more than 2,500 labs, and testing is the most crucial part of, tackling this pandemic. And not only Air Force, but he also made a mention of, Navy and the Army who have, made several trips. Naval warships have made several trips to bring oxygen from other countries. And similarly, Army had set up hospitals at short notice, even DRDO. So all this, summing up of these efforts and then touching upon some of the achievements of his government, he said, this is the government and citizens who have worked together as one entity. That is why this has been possible, be it in the financial sector, be it, direct benefit transfer, be it farmers, record production of food grains even in the midst of pandemic. And this was, I think, the bond which he was trying to highlight, the bond between government and the citizens.
Apart from all the efforts, the Prime Minister did not forget to draw the countrymen's attention to other areas where the government has been doing a lot of work. Like he said that India is also launching record satellites and constructing record roads during this pandemic also. He said in these 7 years, many old, problems of the country have been resolved and with complete peace and harmony. Like a new confidence of peace and development has arisen from the northeast to Kashmir. He said all such work which could not be achieved even in decades, how were they done in these 7 years? That is exactly what many people ask him. But he said that all this was possible because in these 7 years, more than as the government or as the people, we worked together as one nation. We worked as a team. And we worked as Team India. Every citizen has tried to take a few steps forward in advancing the country. Where there are successes, there are also trials. In these 7 years together, we have overcome many difficult tests as well. And each time, we have all emerged stronger. So in the form of corona pandemic, we are being continuously put to test. And this is a crisis that has plagued the whole world. It's not only the India which is facing it. So many people have lost their loved ones. Even big countries were not spared from the devastation, including US and other countries. India is moving forward in spite of this pandemic with the resolve of Seva or Sahyog, that is service and cooperation. In the first wave, we fought courageously. This time too, India will be victorious in the ongoing fight against the virus, be it do gaz ki duri, social distancing, rules related to masks or vaccines. There should be no let-up in our efforts. And this indeed is the path to our victory. Next time when we meet, Prime Minister said in Mann Ki Baat, we will talk about many more inspiring examples of countrymen and discuss new topics. And he said at the end, as you do every time, please do continue to keep sending me your suggestions. And then he wished all countrymen, stay safe, stay healthy, and continue to move forward. I think in a very positive tone, today's message was for the nation. And I think this has been a very useful interaction with the countrymen which the Prime Minister started. And there has been so many modifications Prime Minister has introduced. And I think that is one reason why this is not a monologue. This is not a broadcast to the nation. This is a live interaction with the countrymen.
Thank you, Mr. Tandon, for the discussion.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Prime Minister's Mann Ki Baat. The participants were Ashok Tandon, political analyst, and Vinay Kumar, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.